Are you struggling to save up a down payment for your first home? Are you not sure which tax-advantaged account is best for you? Do you know what to invest in to grow your money the fastest and the safest? Do you want the juiciest tax return possible? Coming up is everything you need to know about the First Home Savings Account, which is now entering its second year here in Canada. What is the FHSA and do you qualify? From the Government of Canada website, a FHSA allows you as a Canadian to buy or build a qualifying home tax-free up to certain limits. To open an FHSA, you need to meet the following criteria. You need to be at least 18 years of age or older if the legal age in your province is older than 18, and you need to be younger than 71 years of age. You also must be a resident of Canada. You did not or do not jointly own a property with a spouse or common law partner, and you did not live in a qualifying home in this or the past 4 years, or do not have a spouse or common law partner. You can open a first home savings account in a brick and mortar institution such as TD Bank, or an online financial institution such as Wealthsimple, or some combination of both of these. So how much can you contribute to a first home savings account? Your contribution room for each calendar year is $8,000. This has a maximum cap of $40,000. So assuming you maxed out your contributions every year, the most years that you could contribute would be 5 years to a first home savings account. You also do not gain access to previous year's contribution room. So if you open your account for the first time in January of 2024, but the first home savings account has been around since April of 2023, you do not gain access to last year's contribution room. So your limit would be $8,000 because this is the first year that you have your account. You can, however, use unused contribution room from the time you open your account. So say you opened your account in November of 2023, but were only able to contribute $5,000 to your account. You would have $3,000 of unused contribution room from 2023 that then you could make up this year in 2024. So you could contribute your full $8,000 for 2024 and contribute the $3,000 of unused contribution room that you have from 2023. This would give you a total account of $16,000 of contributions. So you would have $24,000 left in unused contribution room. Your contribution limit is only affected by your contribution. So if you contribute $15,000 and your account grows past that $40,000, then you can still contribute up to the maximum of that $40,000. You need to track your investments over time so that you're making sure that you don't overcontribute. So how should you invest in your FHSA to fully maximize your account value over time to have the maximum down payment for your first home? This would depend on the time frame that you have available. If you have a really short time frame or a really low risk tolerance, then I would invest in very safe or guaranteed investments. Right now, interest rates are really high, so you can capitalize on that and invest in very safe cash investments that pay a pretty steady 4 to 5% return. For example, the cash ETF shown here returns right now a 5.15% return and has a very low management fee. This is invested in very safe cash assets that will protect your principal over time. If you have a longer time frame until you're planning to buy your first home, you can do slightly riskier investments. So I would go with a balanced fund such as VBAL from Vanguard, or just invest it in the S&P 500. On average, the S&P 500 has returned 7% adjusted for inflation and fees. An example of the Canadian S&P 500 index fund would be something like VFV, which is shown up here. So you've contributed to your first home savings account and your money has grown over time. Now you want to withdraw. How can you go about withdrawing in the most tax advantage way possible? So you can withdraw in one of 3 ways. The first way is by buying a qualifying home that meets the criteria that was previously explained. A second way is if you make a designated withdrawal if you contributed too much into your first home savings account by accident. Say for the year you've contributed $9,000 to your first home savings account, you can designate that extra $1,000 as a designated withdrawal and have no penalties. If you're not making a qualifying withdrawal or a designated withdrawal, any withdrawals from your first home savings account must be counted on your tax return as income. This is because the first home savings account is intended to save up for your first home. So the government wants their cut of your taxes if you're not buying your first home with your withdrawals. So what are the tax considerations for the first home savings account? First of all, withdrawals are completely tax-free if you withdraw for a qualifying home purchase. Another tax consideration is similar to an RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Plan. You can deduct your contributions that you made to your FHSA on your income statement for the next year to help with your tax return. So for example, if you invested $8,000, which was the limit for 2023, into your first home savings account, when you go to file your taxes in February, March, or April for 2023, you can deduct that $8,000 from your income, thereby reducing your taxable income and getting you a tax return. You can also defer this deduction to later years, exactly the same as the RRSP deferral works. For more about this, see my tax video linked in the corner. Unlike the RRSP, contributions made in the first 60 calendar days of the year do not count towards the previous year's FHSA contribution room. So you cannot deduct that amount on your taxes for the previous year. So if you made $2,000 contributions to your FHSA in January of 2024, you cannot deduct that $2,000 from your taxes for 2023. You must wait until you file your 2024 taxes to deduct that amount. Next, contributions made after a qualifying withdrawal cannot be deducted from your tax return. Another advantage of the first home savings account is once you make that qualifying withdrawal, you don't have to recontribute that amount to your first home savings account. If you make a home buyer's plan withdrawal from your registered retirement savings account, you have a 2-year grace period, but once that passes, you have to start recontributing a minimum amount to your RRSP in order to meet the requirements of the home buyer's plan. This can be pretty difficult when you first buy a home because you're usually pretty cash poor, as most of your monthly income is going towards your mortgage, your property taxes, your utility bills, which tend to be a lot higher than if you rent. Let's look at a case study. If you can only max out one of your tax-advantaged accounts and you're trying to save for your first home, should you max out your first home savings account or your registered retirement savings plan? In my opinion, you should max out your first home savings account because once you do make your first home purchase, you do not have to recontribute to your first home savings account, as previously mentioned. If you were to max out your registered retirement savings plan and then use that amount as part of the home buyer's plan for your down payment, you have to recontribute that amount to your home buyer's plan starting 2 years after you've purchased your home. And then you have to make a certain minimum contribution every year to repay that amount as part of the home buyer's plan. Both the first home savings account and the registered retirement savings plan offer the same tax deductions on your income. So the most beneficial option to you is to max out your first home savings account. Also, you do not lose that contribution room to your registered retirement savings plan, so you can make those contributions from previous years in later years. So from a purely budgeting point of view, you're best to max out your first home savings account rather than your registered retirement savings plan if you can only choose to max out one. Under a best case scenario, you can max out all your tax advantaged accounts. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe below. Check out my other video on the top 5 tips to buy your first home in 2024.